circles is your usual suspects. Welcome to yet another live broadcast on your favorite football updates channel. It's 10 minutes past the hour of 9 a.m. that we are coming to you live from Kampala, Uganda. And it's a pleasure to be back, to be with you here this morning. And once again, we'll be discussing the latest from the world of transfers, analyzing some of the clubs and what they've been able to do so far in this transfer window, and what more that there needs that is left that needs to be done, perhaps depending on where our conversation will lead us. But at least we know that we'll be making some bit of comparisons between Sunderland and Manchester United. So we'll be discussing that and a lot more in today's broadcast. So please do join us on this journey as we discuss the latest from your favorite clubs. But before we get into the thick of it, allow me to do the honors of having our audios tested for us for purposes of clarity, to make sure everything does check out in regards to our audios for the purposes of this broadcast. I think we're okay. I think the audio is okay, unless otherwise. Should that change in the course of the broadcast, you guys will be letting me know. As I wait for you guys to to join the broadcast, allow me to send my special shout outs to Damesh there, who part of last night's podcast. We did come on late, about 25 minutes past the hour, 11 p.m. But still, many of you put in the time to join us. So thank you so much, Damesh. Thank you so much, Makasino. Thank you so much, Ahmad Septa. Thank you so much, LFC. Thank you so much, Wang Ho from Hong Kong. We had Nadil Wintrust. Thank you so much for being a part of us yesterday, for being part of that broadcast yesterday. Nichi fan there, the Manchester United fan. Thank you so much as well. Henry, Patrus Ali, Peter Parker, Namaste Europe, there, Jimson, Yunus, Yunus Sezik. Thank you so much, Akatdul Gaming. Thank you so much for being part of last night's broadcast, and every single one of you that managed to join it. We do appreciate you a great deal. Thank you so much for having been part of that broadcast, and it was really meaningful. Thank you so much to our new community members. We continue to have new subscribers every day, and we do appreciate you, new members to the community. We welcome you to the Footballtribe community as we build towards achieving 2,000 subscribers. We will get there eventually. We will get there. Baby steps, but we will get there. So thank you so much to our new community members that have joined the platform. Currently, we're at about 1,392 subscribers. That means we still have quite a journey, about 608 more subscribers for us to reach the mark of 2,000. But thank you so much to every single one of you that has joined the community. In today's morning's discussion, we'll be assessing again whether you guys think, and also what I do think that Sunderland have, had a better transfer window than Manchester United. We are talking about a team that was recently promoted back to the Premier League, and when they beat up against Sheffield United by 2-1 in that championship playoff final at Wembley Stadium. We're talking about a side that has lost arguably their star player in Job Bellingham, who left to join Borussia Dortmund for 33 million euros. And yeah, that's the side we'll be talking about. So really, and I do think it's quite amazing what they've been able to do so far in this transfer window as compared to perhaps Man United. And I know some Man United fans could agree with me on this one, that so far that's the look of things. But the question we are discussing this morning is, have Sunderland had a better transfer window than Manchester United? What are your views on that? Because as As for one, I do think so far Sunderland have had a better transfer window than Manchester United. Of course, the transfer window in itself is really far from done, but from the look of things, it's looking pretty for Sunderland than it is for Man United. So the manager, Regis Lee Brice, are there for Sunderland. Regis Lee Brice, I hope I do pronounce his name quite correctly, must be pretty happy. They are still, by the way, actively in the market. They're trying to get a goalkeeper. They are pursuing Granit Xhaka and a host of all other players. And yet so far they've managed to bring in at least 6 players in this transfer window alone. And yet in sheer comparison, on the side of Man United, they've only brought in 2 players. That's Diego Leon and Matthias Cunha. So that's the situation, really. And also, this also comes in the wake of the fact that Man United have been linked with a potential move to Chelsea's Nicholas Jackson. Now, according to Ben Jacobs, he says Aston Villa are one of the Premier League clubs considering Alejandro Garnacho as revealed last month. Now, the reason as to why this is important in the context of Nicholas Jackson is because yesterday we did receive reports suggesting that Man United could make a swap deal for Alejandro Garnacho with Nicholas Jackson. We'll wait to see how that situation will sort of develop in the coming days, but we'll be keeping tabs on it. Ben Jacobs adds that a left-sided attacker is a key priority for Unai Emery. Garnacho's preference is to stay in the Premier League, and he has also been on the radar of Chelsea this summer. Nicholas Jackson, another name considered by Villa. Chelsea not forcing Jackson out, but could consider bids. Meanwhile, Chelsea retain an interest in Morgan Rogers. That one we've spoken about before, even though Villa consider him untouchable. Jackson has also been discussed by Milan and Manchester United. No formal approaches for either club to date. Now, I told you about the situation with AC Milan because they believe that a deal for Nicholas Jackson could be a little too expensive for their financial muscle. And then also, so that means that possibly at the moment it puts AC Milan off the table in the pursuit for Nicholas Jackson. And like I told you yesterday, it's not like Chelsea are trying to push out Nicholas Jackson, even though they've signed Liam Delap and Joao Pedro. But also him as a player, he must be looking on and saying, am I really going to get the game time that I've been able to get in the previous 2 campaigns? Because in his debut campaign, he played 35 games, while last season he played 30 games. That's in the Premier League alone. Of course, it's worked to his detriment that in the final game, in the second last game of the season, he got a red card, I think, against Newcastle. Was it the second last or the third last? Thereabout. He got a straight red card in that 2-0 loss to Newcastle. And then during the FIFA Club World Cup, he also got himself a red card as soon as he had just come on. I do not particularly remember what game it was, but it did not work to his favor at a time when, questions are beginning to arise about his discipline on the pitch, not off the ball, but while on the ball, in that kind of sense. So those are not really trying to push him out, but should good offers arrive for him, then they will be open to listening to those offers. Pretty much the same way it was with Noni Madueke. However, with the situation with Noni Madueke, I've had reports, I do not know to what gravitation, that apparently Chelsea did reach out to their friends, quote unquote, their friends in Arsenal to offer them Noni Madueke. I do not know, but that speculation is also, beneath the surface. If you do scratch enough, you may hear those kinds of rumblings. So that's the situation with Nicholas Jackson. That's the situation with Alejandro Garnacho. We know the interest from Aston Villa because they want to add a player, but also because we know Aston Villa let go of Jean Duran in January, who joined Al Nassr and has since left Al Nassr to join Fenerbahce on a season-long loan. We do know that they are looking for a striker. Remember, during the January transfer window, they added to their ranks players like Marcus Rashford and Marco Asensio. Also, they signed Daniel Mullin. So those were all front players. And because Asensio returned to PSG and could possibly join Fenerbahce this summer because personal terms had been agreed with the player, pending a transfer fee agreement between Fenerbahce and Paris Saint-Germain, while also we know for a fact that Marcus Rashford has returned to Manchester United. And while Aston Villa would have loved to keep Marcus Rashford. They do not have the financial muscle in the work of profit and sustainability rules to make a £40 million signing in Marcus Rashford. So the 27-year-old remains on the fringes of Man United as an unwanted member of the squad. His shirt number 10 has already been given out to the new signing in Matthias Cunha, so that situation is still there. So when it comes that Aston Villa are also interested in Nicholas Jackson, it's not really much of a surprise because they need replacements for those particular areas. So at the moment, they do have Ollie Watkins and Daniel Mullen as the strikers or as the front forwards, but also remember Ollie Watkins is subject to enormous transfer speculation, linking him with the potential move to the likes of Manchester United, most recently Liverpool. Arsenal have been mentioned in those conversations, but let's wait and see how that situation will develop for Ollie Watkins. So now let's answer the elephant in the room. Let's answer the big question in the room. Have Sunderland had a better transfer window than Manchester United? At the moment, that is how it appears so, because their summer spending has eclipsed about £100 million. While you could argue that Manchester United have spent already 60% of the £100 million on a single player by signing Matthias Cunha, which speaks both to the ambition and the stature of different clubs. That is without question that Man United are the elephant in the room, and that in this case, Sunderland will be, the warthog in the room in comparison to the elephant. So, apologies if the comparison catches you off guard or you find it unworthy in your own interpretation, but that's allow me make it that way. But Sunderland have been able to add 6 players so far to their ranks, and they remain in the market to add in more players. So and these are some of the players that they've been able to sign. Simon Adingra has joined from Brighton and Hove Albion for £20.5 million. Habib Diarra from Strasbourg joined for £30 million. Habib Diarra is viewed as a direct replacement for Joe Bellingham, who left and joined Borussia Dortmund in a deal worth about €33 million. So then they also signed Enzo Lifi for £20 million from AC Roma. They also signed Noah Sadiq from Union Saint Gillosi, from there for £17.5 million. Then they added on Reynaldo Mandava. This one came in as a free agent from Atletico de Madrid, while Jasmine Talbi did also join from Club Brugge for £19 million. Among the outgoings, Tommy Watson left, of course, for Brighton and Hove Albion. That was already known before he even played in that playoff final. And by the way, he scored that winning goal for Sunderland that brought them to the Premier League. Then they also lost Nathan Bishop to AFC Wimbledon for an undisclosed fee, while Adil Auchiche has joined Aberdeen on a season-long loan. So you can see that's some of the movement. In comparison, on the other side, Dylan Asher, hi, good morning. Good to have you on the broadcast. Welcome back to the channel. It's always a pleasure. Sorry, Dylan Ash, it's always good to have you back with us. Do you have any relationship with Dylan Page, the quote-unquote news daddy? I don't know if you've heard about him, but good to have you on the broadcast. Kindly like the broadcast. So, when you compare, these signings and who Sunderland are, I mean, they've already spent £100 million, and by the way, some of these are really, really smart signings. When you look at a player like Simon Adingra, we're talking about the Africa Cup of Nations player of the tournament. Young player of the tournament. That was in 2024, the AFCON 2023 that was played in January 2024. So Habib Diarra, one of the best players in that Strasbourg team, alongside the likes of Andre Santos, alongside the likes of Emmanuel Emega last season, as they helped Strasbourg in the French League One, finished, I think, 7th to qualify for the UEFA Conference League. Then You look at players like Enzo Lee, quite brilliant. Fatros Ali, good to have you once again back on the broadcast. Kindly like the broadcast and consider subscribing to the. Sorry, you already subscribed, but yeah, I kindly like the broadcast there. Fatros Ali, as you know, we try to find something here. So when you look at all those players, yes, Strasbourg finishing seventh with 57 points. And so, what do you think about Alvaro Carreras? Let's speak about Alvaro Carreras in a bit, in just a bit. So, indulge me on this one. So, when you look at all these signings and even getting a free agent, and that they remain in the market, of course, Bournemouth just beat them to the signing of Georgi Petrovic from Chelsea. So that means they remain in the market for a goalkeeper. At two, they're also trying to pursue a deal for 32-year-old Swiss international. That's Granit Xhaka from Bayer Leverkusen. Now, he still has 3 years left to his current contract with Bayer Leverkusen, but Bayer Leverkusen are willing to listen to offers for the former Arsenal midfielder and ex-Borussia Mönchengladbach star. Among the other clubs that are interested in Granit Xhaka also is AC Milan, as well as Nayom SC from the Saudi Pro League. So really, when you look at some of the players that are being linked with the potential move to Man United and those linked with Sunderland, you can see that it's like Sunderland are being more ambitious in the market than Manchester United. Of course, Man United also have expressed interest in wanting another goalkeeper. However, that may depend a little bit on potential departures. However, the hamstring injury that Andre Onana did suffer in training does not really help those endeavors. Sunderland are looking for a number 8 kind of midfielder, even though they've already acquired Habib Diarra. They're looking to add experience. Initially there were reports linking them with a potential move for Jordan Henderson, of course, their former player who has since signed for Brentford back in the Premier League after leaving Ajax as a free agent at the age of 35. So I think that is what now pushes them towards Granit Xhaka. So when you look at all that, Man United, we know for a fact that they need to sign a midfielder, a number 8 kind of profile of a player. They need a goalkeeper. They've not done that. They're trying to secure a deal for Brian Mbeumo, but those negotiations have been going on literally for forever. There's still a disparity in valuation of Brian Mbeumo and versus what Man United are willing to pay at this stage in the transfer window. They feel they are being given the Manchester United tax, which they do not want to pay, according to them. That's apparently Sir Jim Ratcliffe. He thinks that £70 million is an over-exaggeration, an over-valuation of the player in Brian Mbeumo. Only 25 years of age. He's really done well over the last 4 years in the Premier League. He's sort of gone into that kind of player. His numbers have been growing. So to the extent that he scored 20 last season and provided 7 assists. Could he reach those numbers at Man United? If he joined, I mean, it's not impossible. If he's done it before, why not do it again and even do better? They've landed Matthias Cunha. They do remain in the market for a striker. And that's why we've been discussing about their situation with Nicholas Jackson. So much the objection of Manchester United fans. But I wish to be the devil's advocate and say, give it a moment's thought and see where that, if you do assess it objectively, you may end up with a different result in a manner of speaking, in comparison to some of the other names that have been linked with a potential move to Manchester United when it comes to strikers. Among those names being Jamie Vardy, Oli Watkins, Jamie Vardy, Dominic Calvert-Lewin, Moises Kean, Callum Wilson. I mean, look at it that way and see where your conclusion will be. So, but it is interesting times already. Alvaro Carreras, what do I think about Alvaro Carreras? Very brilliant left back. He did come through the ranks of Castilla. So Real Madrid know the player quite well. He did join Manchester United at some point. That's where he left at last summer to join Benfica for about 8 million euros or something thereabout. And United had the buyback clause for about 15 million euros, and they felt they did not exercise that. But I do think I'm inclined to believe that they do have a sell-on clause in the player's contract. Now, Benfica will receive in installments up to 50 million euros. I think about the money will be paid across either 4 to 5 installments, depending. But yeah, 50 million euros. Alvaro Carreras does in Real Madrid from Benfica. Very, very good left back. He's going to rival Fran Garcia for playing time in that left back role or left wing back role, as at least we did observe Xabi Alonso play with a back three during the course of the FIFA Club World Cup. So if it is a system that he wishes to employ further, going ahead in Real Madrid, then he will play as a wing back. We know it's a system he's played with at Bayer Leverkusen before. So let's just wait and see how everything will be. But Alvaro Carreras is a very, very brilliant player. I do hope that answers your question, Fatros Ali. But thank you so much for bringing it forward. So guys, do let me know what your thoughts are in regards to Man United and versus Sunderland, the comparison that we've been trying to go in regards to who has had a better transfer window. In my opinion, I think Sunderland have so far had the better, and they could go ahead to do more. And now, of course, all these signings that they've made, having them translate into good results remains to be seen. Is a totally different, whole story. But also, but it takes nothing away from the fact that they've done good transfer business. It takes me back, I think, to some of the teams we've seen. You remember Aston Villa when they came back to the Premier League? I think they were under the charges of Dean Smith. That was around 2018. Yes, I think in the summer of 2018. And they went on to sign all sorts of players, including Mohamed Trezeguet. They signed so many players already. Then you do remember Nottingham Forest 3 seasons ago when they returned to the Premier League. They signed so many players under the charges of Steve Cooper at the time. They signed so many players. I think about 22 players, and that sort of iteration continued on for the following season, to the extent that they were sanctioned for profit and sustainability rules being found in breach for those rules. And in the long haul, it has paid off. For 2 seasons, they did survive relegation, including Nuno Espirito Santo's first half season, and in his first full season, he guided them to a European place finish. When they finished 7th, they could have finished higher than that, but let's not forget that they lost to Chelsea on the final day of the season when they lost by 1-0, and also I think they lost a couple of points in the tail end of the season, including the 2-2 draw against Leicester City and things of that nature. So for me, I do believe Sunderland have had a better transfer window. Could they still be a candidate for relegation? Then pretty much so. But Man United ought to prove us otherwise, because they equally finished 15th last season, and all the players that they're trying to target have so far not come through. And it doesn't look like Ruben Amorim is going to again have the desired pre-season that he would have loved to have in regards to getting his players on time and trying to have them fitted into the kind of system that he wants to play. That's what I do feel about that situation. Anyways, then also let's I think we'll visit some of the latest transfer gossip and speculation making the rounds. But yesterday, it was confirmed that Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain had his contract with Besiktas terminated, and apparently there is a whole host of Premier League clubs that are interested in landing the signature of the former Southampton, Arsenal, and Liverpool attacking midfielder / winger. So, let's just wait and see how it will transpose in the next couple of weeks. Then let's wait and see. Then, of course, yesterday Liverpool did formally approach Eintracht Frankfurt over the signing of Hugo Ekitike. Pretty much that is ongoing, while Newcastle also remain in negotiations, serious negotiations for the same player, and it is expected that they will soon be making a second bid. for the 23-year-old French forward. So here is the latest from the transfer gossip and speculation desk as of this morning, because Man United and Manchester United is moved for Brentford forward Brandon Bomo has told us the London club have increased their asking price to closer to £70 million, while the Old Trafford club do not want to pay more than a deal worth £65 million. Man United just say offer £63 million in guaranteed fees and £2 to £3 million or even 5 in expected add-ons, and you'll have a deal for Brandon Bomo. That's what I feel. That's what I think it will take. Then Liverpool have opened talks with Eintracht Frankfurt, like I've told you, that's according to Sky Sports. However, Newcastle are still pushing ahead with their attempt to sign Hugo Ekitike in the hope of pairing him with the Sweden striker Alexander Isak next season. Remember, Alexander Isak is also a target for Liverpool. Then Aston Villa among Premier League clubs are weighing a move for Alejandro Garnacho, that pretty much we discussed. Then Man United may look at a swap deal for Nicholas Jackson with Garnacho. Again, that's a situation we did discuss at great length last night and briefly this morning. Then Sunderland exploring a deal for Granit Xhaka that I've told you already about. Then West Ham are stepping up their interest, their pursuit for Bournemouth midfielder Marcus Tavernier at 26. Then Man United have held talks with the camp of 27-year-old Brighton and Ecuador, a defender Pavis Estupinan before a potential transfer. Then also Leeds have reached an agreement to sign. They did reach an agreement in principle to sign Hoffenheim and German midfielder Anton Stachy, 26 years of age. That's according to Sky Sports Germany. Then Inter Milan are preparing an offer for 27-year-old Atlanta and Nigerian striker Ademola Lookman, who is also a target for Atletico Madrid. That's according to Gazzetta dello Sport in Italia. Then Bayern Munich apparently have offered £43 million plus £4.4 million in achievable add-ons, plus a 10% sell-on clause to Stuttgart for German striker Nick Woltmann. The 23-year-old has already agreed to personal terms in principle with the German Bundesliga giants. I think it's a 5-year contract worth about €7.5 million in wages per season, possibly rising up to 10 if bonuses are all achieved. Then Real Madrid are considering selling Brazilian forward Vinicius Jr. unless the 25-year-old reduces his salary demands. That's according to Sport in Spanish. Now, we've been hearing a lot about these rumors in the last couple of days that Vinicius Jr. wants higher wages, apparently wants to be the most paid player at Real Madrid. Whether those rumors do hold any water to them, but if it is indeed true that that's the situation, that that's what he really wants, then Florentino Perez is one of those presidents that is not afraid to cut off an arm to save the body. So he should tread carefully, knowing that if push comes to shove, then Real Madrid will show him the exit as soon as possible. And I mean, they still have players that can play on that left wing, Kylian Mbappe, Rodrigo Goes, and then they go and spend that good money that they may have raised from him and get a good striker, possibly, and even self-serve. Just imagine, let's say Real Madrid let go of Vinicius Jr. for 170, for let's say 150 million euros, around that fee, because if Florian Wirtz is commanding that, then it's only sufficient to assume that even Vini can cost that and even much more. So let's assume he went for that, let's say, joined a Premier League team like Chelsea, like Man United, like Liverpool, maybe Arsenal, or he went to, let's say the German Bundesliga and joined Bayern Munich, who are interested in the left winger, or he went to Juventus or Inter Milan or the Saudi Pro League, whichever place he may land. What is it to say that Real Madrid just don't go out in the market and say, okay, look, we have Kylian Mbappe who can play on the left. We have also Rodrigo Goes and the young striker in Gonzalo Garcia. We want to let go of Henry. Why not just go and pay, £100 million plus and get, Alexander Isak from Newcastle? He's played in the Spanish La Liga before, and he's proven that he's capable of, posting good results there. Hello, Evers Edit. Good morning. Good to have you on the broadcast. My brother, always a pleasure to see you here with us. Kindly like the broadcast while you're still here with us. So, I mean, what's not to say that, Real Madrid uh, use that money to try and make a move for Broad Erling Haaland from Manchester City while he's still on a very lengthy contract and every situation is good for him at Man City. They could just wake up and make a move for him. Um, because maybe they go and spend some of that on Benjamin Sesko and take a bet on him. Maybe they also make a dash for Hugo Ekitike. Who knows? Maybe they make a move for Darwin Nunes. I do not know, but I do not think Vinicius Junior should think that they can't let him go. They could do it at any point in time. So it can happen. It can happen. I've seen, Florentino Perez act contrary to the preferences of the team and sometimes the stars. Remember when Cristiano Ronaldo left to join Juventus for about what, 80 million euros or something? Then, or was it pounds? Then you remember when they let go of Angelo Di Maria in 2014 to join Man United. That deal was about 59 million pounds. You remember when Mesut Ozil joined Arsenal in 2013. These were all players in their prime really, at Real Madrid that they were delivering at the top level. Angel Di Maria had just helped Real Madrid win the La Decima in 2014 when they beat up against Atletico Madrid by 4-1 after extra time in the UEFA Champions League final. So, and if they sold him anyway. So anything can happen really. Anything can happen. And for those of you that are just joining us, please kindly like the broadcast, but also if you're new here, please consider subscribing to the channel. Evers Edits is asking me, can I speak a word in Hindi? In Hindi? Not really. No, that's no. I just do not know the language. I do not know any word in Hindi. Maybe I do not know if Namaste is in Hindu. Namaste. Is that Hindu or it's a different language? You're saying say bye. Bye. So do you pronounce the B or you pronounce the H? I think you pronounce the B. Bye. What does that mean? Please, I hope you do not trick me into using, unworthy language or while on the broadcast. I may be sanctioned by YouTube or other people that are mindful of the language. Bye means go. Okay, that's interesting. The only word that I can speak when it comes to Hindi or any relation with Indian language is Namaste. That's all I can say really. But thank you for encouraging me to teach me a thing or two about your local language. Even me, English is not my local language. It's only our official language. If I used my local language, you and I wouldn't get a thing or that I was saying really. But thank you for being with us this morning. So really, that's the situation when it comes to Real Madrid and Vinicius Junior. Let nothing persuade Vinicius Junior into thinking that he is untouchable. Liverpool closer to Ekitike or Isak? They are not closer to none. They've only expressed interest that they would want to sign Alexander Isak. They approached Newcastle formally, but we all know Newcastle said he's not for sale. Then yesterday they made a formal approach to Eintracht Frankfurt to sign Hugo Ekitike. Hugo Ekitike is a player they've expressed interest in signing literally the entire summer, and we know their preference or preferred number one target will be Alexander Isak. Now, basically what Liverpool are trying to do here is that they're saying either you sell us Alexander Isak, or you leave Hugo Ekitike for us. Otherwise, you cannot have both. Practically, that's what they're trying to do. But I do understand completely why Newcastle are making a move for Hugo Ekitike, because look at it in the situation. For example, for a second, if you're a Newcastle fan or a sympathizer or well-wisher, or even just analyzing the situation, you do have a player like Alexander Isak, who in the last 3 years has developed to be arguably one of the best strikers, at least within the top 5 strikers that there is in Europe. And I think I'll put him in the same basket with, Erling Haaland, Robert Lewandowski, maybe Kylian Mbappe, Victor Gyökeres. I'd say they are the best five, strikers that there is in Europe at the moment. Now, you look at him in that scenario, and you see how literally Premier League teams are salivating with interest in signing him. He's still only 25 years of age. He does turn 26 later in September. But you look at him and you're thinking to yourself, sooner or later, Europe's giants are going to come calling for him, and maybe the player may want to, walk away from the team, and we may not be able to keep a hold of him. So we need to find a replacement that develops soon enough to be in position to replace him, should it be the case that he leaves us in a year or 2 years time from now, So that's how they are looking at it. Look at a team like Bayern Munich. They do have Harry Kane as their striker. In a year or two, he's not going to be he may not be still playing at the top level or scoring all those good numbers of goals. His sort of delivery may have dropped down, and that Bayern Munich may need to go out and look for a striker. What makes it to say that they do not come for Alexander Isak? What's it not to say that the player asks for to be let go? Look at Real Madrid. They could come calling. Look at Barcelona. They do have Robert Lewandowski, but he's 36 years of age. Soon he will be 37 and subsequently 38. They could look to move him on. And what makes you think that they do not consider Alexander Isak? So Newcastle must be alive to those kinds of possibilities. They must be alive to. They are also alive to the fact that teams like Liverpool, teams like Arsenal, teams like possibly Man United, teams like Real Madrid, Barcelona, Bayern Munich, teams like PSG are all bigger teams than they are. In principle, they are bigger teams than they are, and that their prized asset in Alexander Isak could want to go out and play for any of those teams, really. So we can't rule out anything. So I think that's why Newcastle are trying to sign Hugo Ekitike. But also the other reason is that they are trying to show their best player in Alexander Isak that they are being ambitious about building this project. And this project that they want to rival the best that there is in the Premier League and in Europe as well. They've just returned to the UEFA Champions League for the second time in a space of 3 seasons. They want to consistently be qualifying for the Champions League, and you do not do that by letting go of your good players. You do that by adding or strengthening your team further, and that comes by spending big and own good players. And that's why they've gone all in to sign Anthony Elanga. They want to go all in to land Hugo Ekitike. So they are trying to show ambition as well to Alexander Isak and all the other some of the best players. They are trying to sign James Trafford as a goalkeeper from Burnley. He's only 22 years of age. Very, very good goalkeeper, by the way. Good with his feet, good with his hands, and he's a former Manchester City academy player. So that's the player they are looking at. You come back to say, okay, Newcastle being ready to hold 2 good strikers. You could look at it that way, that they are being too greedy, but also I've given you the reasons as to why why they are considering him and why they are looking at, they are assessing their situation. This is a player they tried to sign by in January until deadline day when a deal did not work out. When I will go up, I will come to your village, Uganda, right? Okay, Evers Edits, whenever you're ready, you can come to Uganda. Uganda is a very welcoming community. We do have a large Indian community in Uganda, so you're most welcome to come anytime. Which village? Let's keep it at districts and maybe the capital Kampala, but the village is some remote place that you wouldn't even know about, but it does exist. You say Barcelona still owes Liverpool huge amounts. They are not going to challenge for Isak. Now, that's what you think. That's what you may think. They may not challenge in the sense of their willingness to offer maybe a more competitive price or better paying terms, but they could challenge with the preference of the player, saying, I would love to move to Barcelona, because like I said, the player still has 2 years left to his current contract. he is into the third last year of his current contract, which means he will be 26 by he will still be 26 by the end of the season. Then when we go into the 2027 season, he will have entered the second last year of his contract. So that means if he does not renew a contract with Newcastle, it puts Newcastle in a bit of a tough spot, or on the edge, or with a desire to sell then rather than later, because the longer he goes into his contract, possibly further down goes his valuation, or maybe not valuation as a whole, but their negotiating power, because how you negotiate for a player that still has 3 years left to his current contract may not be the same way you negotiate for a player that has 1 year left to his current contract, or maybe even 2, So Newcastle are alive to those situations. Whether Barcelona still owe Liverpool money, that won't work, that won't withstand, because until yesterday, according to trusted sources, Barcelona had the money to pay Nico Williams' release clause, 58 million euros. So if they have that money today, what makes you think that in 1 year or 2 years' time, when they are playing consistently in the UEFA Champions League, they won't have enough resources to come and make a move for Alexander Isak and rival the likes of Liverpool, or even Real Madrid for his signature, So let's not rule that out in that context. Okay, gotta go to school. Gotta go to my school. Time has come. Thank you so much, Evers Edits, for being with us this morning. Zero Requiem, you say you previously said do not see Rodrigo joining Liverpool. Now they are favorites to sign Rodrigo. Any change in your opinion? I did not say that I do not see Rodrigo at Liverpool. What I did say is that Liverpool were not the front runners at the time, and that it was not as close as you tried to paint it at the time. What I did say, or did acknowledge, was that the player was being linked with a potential move to Liverpool. But that situation of Rodrigo Goes is apparently linked to the developments with Luis Diaz. Now, should things change, should Liverpool move on Luis Diaz against their preference, by the way, then Rodrigo Goes becomes a very, very concrete possibility. I mean, we're also talking about a player that can play across the entire front three, although his preference is to play off the left wing, So, and that's where Luis Diaz plays. So, and you also have Cody Gakpo in there, So that's why also I did tell you that Liverpool were also interested in 2 other players. These are primarily players in Anthony Gordon and what's his name? Morgan Rogers, from Aston Villa. So it could be a choice that comes down to one of those. And we know that the Real Madrid are demanding a fee in the region of 90 to 100 million euros for Rodrigo Goes. You do have Anthony Gordon that could cost maybe 70 plus million pounds to get him out of Newcastle. Although Aston Villa maintain that Morgan Rogers is not for sale, you could possibly. Apologies there on the internet glitch. Apologies, please. So you do have that kind of situation, but Morgan Rogers, very, very good player, is being linked with a potential move to Chelsea, to Arsenal. They are all interested apparently. We are talking about a player who only joined Aston Villa a season and a half ago, and yet he's been progressive. He's been shown enormous signs of progress. That he's a very, very wonderful, exciting player. So it could come down that the choice Liverpool make is out of those 3 to say we will sign at least one of those, and it could be Anthony Gordon, it could be Morgan Rogers, as opposed to Rodrigo Goes. So yes, recent reports have suggested that Liverpool are weighing up a move for Rodrigo Goes, but like I've told you, they do have a situation with Luis Diaz. Now, they've told all suitors that Luis Diaz is not for sale. They told Barcelona, they told Bayern Munich. Now, Bayern Munich moved ahead and put in a bid worth 67.5 million euros to try and sign the 28-year Colombian international, who, by the way, only has 2 years left to his current contract. Now, according to The Athletic, the player has told Liverpool that he would love to leave. Now, Liverpool, while they are adamant he's not up for sale. They've also communicated his value by saying they do value the player at 100 million euros plus. So that means if you do bring 100 million euros plus, which I do not think Bayern Munich are willing to offer, then you could win yourself the player. Remember, there's also interest from the Saudi Pro League, from a club like Al Nassr, who have yet to, formalize their interest. They've yet to make a bid for him, But let's not rule out anything. If you have money, if they have money, they should pay their 100 million pounds now. Do you mean Bayern Munich? I mean, I do not think Bayern Munich are going to spend 100 million pounds on Luis Diaz. By the way, there have also been reports that Bayern Munich could, switch things up and turn to Rodrigo Goes. That is the player that they did discuss in May, according to Sky Sports Germany. And although those discussions did go far down the line, but it's an option they've discussed. Hi, Finn, good to have you on the broadcast. Then, you're talking about Barcelona? I mean, let's just wait and see. Because, you see, the situation could arise out of demand, Who is not to say that Barcelona sell 1-2 of their attacking players, and then suddenly they have enough resources to rival Liverpool for Isak, You also say, I already said Anthony Gordon is not on Liverpool's list right now. That's not true. That's not true. He is among the options. Guys, let's not forget, and this is how it works, really. Clubs identify that we need a player in this position and go ahead and make a shortlist. And that shortlist has sometimes a minimum of 3 names or even more. Now, of course, priorities could change, in regards to their assessment of those options, but usually they will have those options ranked that say, this is our number 1 target for priority, this is our number 2, this is our number 3. In other words, plan A, plan B, plan C. So if plan A fails, then they go to plan B. If B fails, then they have a plan C to land on. So Antonio Gordon is still on Liverpool's list. They are not actively pursuing him at the moment, but he is still on that list, The same way, Bayern Munich did not have Luis Diaz as priority on their list. He wasn't the top target, Initially, they had wanted to remain with Leroy Sané. They offered him a contract. They couldn't agree to terms, and the player left to join Galatasaray on a 3-year deal. So then that puts them in the market. And once they arrive in the market, remember the first player they did formally approach was Nico Williams. They had 2 meetings with his agents, and they were hoping to move forward with that. And then suddenly Barcelona came in, and Barcelona, while they apparently could afford paying for the player, they couldn't afford registering him at the moment. There were questions about whether they could register him. And that's how that deal collapsed. The player ended up, renewing his contract with Athletic Bilbao for 8 years plus the 2 years that were remaining on his previous contract to make it 10 years. So you have that situation. Then they expressed interest in signing Bradley Barcola, who Liverpool themselves are interested in. But PSG has told the entire world he's equally up. No, he's not for sale. And by the way, in the assessment is that according to numerous reports, Bradley Barcola would cost slightly more than Luis Diaz. So there is that situation. So Bayern Munich are also moving down further their options as the market situation changes. If Liverpool hold it out and they can't get Bayern Munich can't get Luis Diaz, then they will move on to the other options. Previously, names like Kaoru Mitoma have been mentioned in that regard. Gabriel Martinelli has been mentioned. A player like Rafael Leao has been mentioned in those ranks as being part of the options for Bayern Munich. Same way they've mentioned Rodrigo Goes. So it's not like a club zero says this is our only option. We either get him or we do not sign any player. Usually it may not happen that way. In some cases it's happened that way. I've seen it before where a club says, let's say, for example, take this example of Liverpool at this moment. Let's say indeed they really want to sign Alexander Isak. They could say, okay, we failed to sign Alexander Isak this time. How about we wait? Let's not even sign let's not sign Hugo Ekitike. Let's just wait it out with Alexander Isak. Let's retain, Darwin Núñez. We've added on Florian Wirtz. We'll remain with Mo Salah. And then remember, and then we'll try again next summer. Maybe next summer the conditions will have changed. Maybe Newcastle will have softened their stance. We've seen those kinds of situations, so we can't rule that out. But also, when it comes to wingers, let's not forget, Liverpool also could look to sign a right winger. Mo Salah is not going any younger. While he put pen to paper on a new-year contract, Liverpool must be thinking to themselves, we have to start planning going away from Mo Salah, because sooner or later he's not going to be maybe the player he currently is at the moment. The same way Jurgen Klopp did it. You saw how Jurgen Klopp transitioned that Liverpool midfield, with the outgoing of Gini Wijnaldum, Fabinho, Jordan Henderson, and then in came, Alexis McAllister, in came Wataru Endo, in came Ryan Gravenberch, in came Dominic Szoboszlai. Those all are Jurgen Klopp signings. So all those are factors really to say. So do not rule out Anthony Gordon entirely, because he is a very, very good player. That's for starters. He's a player that Liverpool appreciate. Have they, approached Newcastle for him this summer? Definitely not. And we cannot say they won't, because, like I keep saying, we still have a month and 2 weeks to go on this transfer window. So the situation could change. Really zero. And I hope that answers your submission on that front. Then, okay, I don't think I missed out anything on that front. Oh, my feed is being a bit slow. Am I missing out on some comments? I see Afin is asking opinions on Leeds. Will they stay in the Premier League? I mean, that's a bit of a difficult one. Like most managers, Daniel Fakir can be a bit stubborn to stick to the way he wants his teams to play, which does cost him sometimes. We saw that was it about 2 years ago with Norwich City? He's tried to stick it out with his playing system, very attacking and very fluid, and it worked to his detriment. I mean, I'm yet to make my season predictions, because the transfer window is very, very active. Clubs are trying to recruit players. I need to assess what players they brought in before I make my final conclusion. But it is not too early to think that they can stay in the Premier League. I mean, last season you had teams like Tottenham fighting for their lives. You had Man United. You had Wolves. Wolves could still be a relegation candidate. Brentford could be a relegation candidate. Looking at the kinds of players that they could lose by the end of the transfer window. They've already lost their captain in Christian Nogan. They could lose Brani Mbomo. They could lose Yohan Wissa amid his interest from Nottingham Forest. There have been some reports linking him with a potential move to Liverpool. I do not think those reports are really, really credible. The reports linking Yohan Wissa with a potential move to Tottenham Hotspur. So they did lose their goalkeeper in Mark Blacken, although they replaced well with Kelleher. There's then the big elephant in the room, the change in the manager. You have Keith Andrews. Now, they've lost Thomas Frank, who was quite experienced and had been at the club for more than 6 years. 6 years as a manager and more than 6 years having been in the club, because he joined them, I think it was around December 2016, and he was an assistant to Dean Smith at the time. And then about 2.5 years later, or about 2 years later, that's when he was elevated and chosen as the head coach. Now you had Keith Andrews, who had recently joined, Brentford as a set-piece coach, being elevated to the role of head coach. We are yet to see how it works out for him. He could be, the tactical genius that we had not seen coming, and suddenly Brentford, the dark horse, and they continue to put on a very good performance going into next season. We just have to wait and see. So you have those kinds of things. We saw Everton struggle. They had to fight off relegation. We saw West Ham struggle. Leeds just needs to be better than one of those two teams, than one of those three teams, and then possibly they could stay in the Premier League in the top flight. So are they candidates for relegation? Usually the teams that have just been promoted are the first candidates for relegation. But could they stay? Obviously they can. We've seen it recently with teams like Bournemouth, with teams like Nottingham Forest 3 seasons ago. They got promoted and were able to stay. So let's Fulham themselves. They got promoted back. I think after was that in 2022? With Marco Silva, or 2021, around that time, really. So they got promoted back. So it's not really hard to imagine that Leeds could fight their way into staying in the top flight. It's a very, very big possibility that they stay up in the top flight. Any other submission? I hope I'm not missing out on anything. I hope I'm not missing out on any comments or whatsoever that you guys may have sent in. I can see one has been retracted or deleted from Finn. Okay, I think I've answered all of them. But thank you so much, Patrus Ali. Thank you so much, Dylan Ash. Thank you so much, Evers Edits. Thank you so much, Zero Requiem, for his devoting time to be part of our discussions here. Thank you so much, Finn, for being part of us this morning. If any of you is interested in learning some digital skills like web design, coding, cyber security, then do not hesitate to check out our friends at Able State. They are based in Kampala, Uganda, and you do qualify for a 5% discount if you do enroll with them this month. They do offer both online and in-person training sessions, and they help their trainees find jobs in post-training. So we will leave their link down in the description so that you can check them out. Last night we had a very, very lengthy discussion. It went on for about 1 hour and 40 minutes plus. A very, very fruitful discussion. Again, we are discussing issues to do with Man United and with their interest in Nicholas Jackson. But let's wait and see. But Liverpool are looking to add at least two more attacking players or forward players to their ranks. Of course, bearing in mind in the wake of the terrible loss of Diego Jota, so they could look for a replacement. We know they are trying to move on Darwin Núñez, even though Napoli have pulled out of the race to sign Darwin Núñez, and they are trying to move him on, and they will need to replace him, and that's why they are trying to move fast on the striking part, because while the ideal situation would be that they move on Darwin Núñez fast before they sign another striker, that puts them at risk that they could be sort of beaten to their primary targets in the transfer window if the idea of moving on Darwin Núñez is dragging on. Otherwise, it's been a pleasure having you guys this morning to discuss the latest form in the transfer window and assess your teams further. Have yourselves a wonderful rest of the day, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye for now.